sobrang at hindi lang yung sa word sa word
In recent decades, the Asia-Pacific region has made great strides in reducing extreme poverty thanks to vibrant trade and investment. Income and opportunities have risen, driven by innovation and commitment, and women are helping to power this growth. Yet gaps remain on gender equality both in work and in society. The East Asian Pacific region has closed 2/3 of its economic gender gap so far. But to fully close the gap, it could take another 100 years. Closing gender gaps in work and society would add up to $4.5 trillion to the region. To accelerate this timeline, UN Women and the European Union launched We Empower Asia to catalyze business action towards gender equality and increase women's full and equal economic participation. In China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam, we work with companies, investors, workers, policymakers, civil society, and a wide range of stakeholders, focusing on 3 areas. First, we create an enabling business environment for women. Second, we promote women-owned businesses and gender-inclusive entrepreneurship. And third, we advance gender-inclusive business cultures through the Women's Empowerment Principles, or WEPs. The WEPs are 7 principles that guide companies to promote gender-equal corporate leadership, inclusive and safe workplaces, equal pay for work of equal value, gender-responsive supply chain, marketing and community advocacy practices, and transparency and accountability of business at large. As we strive to build a more inclusive future for all, join us, along with thousands of business leaders around the world, who are now driving progress for women, turning their promises into reality, because gender equality is more than just a moral responsibility. It's also great for business.
Think about the impact of a signature. Think about the magnitude of a global movement. Think about the difference you can make and the power of transformative change. By signing the Women's Empowerment Principles, you can galvanize your shareholders and stakeholders to drive change in the workplace, marketplace, and community through a framework of 7 principles. Brought to you by UN Women and UN Global Compact, the Women's Empowerment Principles are a roadmap for business sustainability, innovation, and productivity. Businesses by the thousands and in every sector are becoming part of this world-changing movement to advance gender equality. Businesses that become models for attracting talent, entering new markets, serving their communities, and measurably improving the bottom line. Because gender equality means better business. Don't miss this moment to make a lasting impact on your employees, suppliers, customers, and investors. Join leading companies already on the journey to greater sustainability and growth. Commit to the Women's Empowerment Principles and make today your organization's signature moment.
Noon pa man, malaki na ang naging bahagi ng mga kababaihan sa lipunang Pilipino. Kaisa sila sa marubdob na paghahangad ng kalayaan ng ating lahi. Kabilang sila sa paglinang ng ating makulay na sining at mayamang kultura. Kasapi sila sa pagtataguyod ng mga adhikain ng kapwa mamamayan at sa pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng lipunan. Katuwang sila sa pagtuklas sa mga larangan ng agham at medisina. Kapanalig sila sa pagpapairal ng batas, karapatan at katarungan para sa lahat. Kabahagi sila sa paglilingkod sa bayan at sa pagpapanatili ng demokrasyang Pilipino. Sa paglipas ng panahon, hindi nagmaliw ang kanilang pag-ibig sa ating inang bayan. Mga kababayan, ito ang alay ng mga kababaihang Pilipino para sa bayan. Tumayo po tayong lahat at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Ayaw magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dilim mo'y buhay. Lupang hiniram, dulot ka ng pag-ibig, sa manlulupin, di ka masisigil. Sa lahat ng lubog, sa sigaw at sa lalim mong babang, magilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang isang ng patawad mo'y kalupay na nagdilimig. Tuwing at araw na kailan pa may madilim. Lupa ng araw ng 100 buhay ay nangis sa piling mo. Ang higaya na pag may makahamig, ang mga ray ng dahil sa'yo.
Good afternoon. I am a strategist. Corporate policy review and gender mainstreaming is the 5th installment of the 6th I Am Womenar Learning Series. I am Mylena Viva, President of the Women's Business Council Philippines. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. For businesses to champion gender equality and women empowerment, gender mainstreaming is a key. It is an essential component in the creation, execution, assessment, and review of policies and processes of an organization. In fact, the United Nations established gender mainstreaming as a global strategy in achieving gender equality and the empowerment of women. The United Nations Economic and Social Council describes gender mainstreaming as the process of assessing the implications for women and men of any planned action, including legislation, policies, or programs in all areas at all levels. It is a strategy for making women as well as men's concerns and experiences an integral dimension of the design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of policies and programs in all political, economic, and societal spheres so that women and men benefit equally and inequality is not perpetuated. The ultimate goal is to achieve gender equality. Gender mainstreaming does not replace the need for targeted women-specific policies and programs or positive legislation, nor does it substitute for gender units or gender focal points. Today, we will learn more about gender mainstreaming and how we can craft a corporate policy in our businesses and in our workplace. I would like to express my gratitude to the Women's Business Council, chapter leads, case study authors and panelists, book cover artists, supportive members of the Women's Business Council as our audience, and who participated in the I Am Woman Legacy Project. To the Womenbiz partners, the UN Women Philippines, Department of Trade and Industry, Philippine Commission on Women, Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Business for Social Progress, Indian Women in Enterprise, Association of Filipino Franchisers, Filipino Marketing Association, and other private organization partners. Maraming salamat. And also I'd like to give a shout out to my friends from Women of Microsoft who are also here in this call today. Let us do a deep dive into why gender mainstreaming and corporate policy development is relevant. Our speakers and panelists will surely enlighten, educate, and inspire you. Welcome to I Am Strategist, Corporate Policy Review and Gender Mainstreaming WOMENar Learning Series. Now, I'd like to introduce to you the UN Women Program Manager. Please welcome Rosaline Lenlen Messina.
Hi, Mylene. Thank you so much. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat and welcome to this 5th installment of the I Am Woman Womenar series. Corporate policy is so crucial. We always say what is not written is often forgotten. And why is it that we need to focus and really learn about ensuring whatever we want to achieve and whatever we want to institutionalized is reflected in our corporate policy is the main reason why we want this covered this afternoon. I've been doing several studies and interviews with different corporate and government leaders as to their commitment in ensuring gender equality and women's empowerment is translated in the way they do their businesses or in the way they do their work. There were so many remarkable efforts, programs, and initiatives that they were telling me. They said that they have adopted flexible working arrangement. They have provided soft landing for those who are coming from maternity leave, and they have even extended beyond the maternity leave benefits even prior to the approval of the expanded maternity leave, that there are mechanisms in place to tackle sexual harassment or abuses experienced by women whenever they are in the workplace. But when I asked, are these reflected in the policies that you have in the office? Are your employees and are your stakeholders informed about these policies? And then they will take a step back and say, no, that's an ad hoc basis and that's on a per need basis. So the people at least I've talked to or have interviewed have a lot of these in place, working on a per demand basis or trying to adjust as needs arises. But we feel it is so crucial for us to articulate that if we commit to promoting gender equality, inclusion, and women's empowerment, that it does not have to be on an ad hoc basis. That the way for us and for leaders to show commitment to this vision and this contribution to our society is for us to reflect it in our company policies. So I am very, very excited to hear and learn from our panel members how they have seen that, how they have done that, and what are the different challenges encountered in reflecting this vision and in these advocacies and this work to promote women's empowerment, gender equality, and inclusion in company policies or corporate policies. We call it as a strategy because we feel when you put in place a commitment that you want to happen, you put it as part of a strategy and you put it in your company's DNA, and that is reflected in the company policy, which is really a very, very good starting point for changes to happen and for changes to occur. I know a lot of us would always say, but why do we always need to pinpoint that, and why do we always need to bring up that issue, that problem, and would that not suffice that we're doing this and that we have programs? Yes, it is very helpful to have programs. It is very helpful to have very good initiatives and very nice activities, but it can be forgotten. Whatever in whatever introduction or program that we do, if we don't write it, people will forget it. And we need to admit that we will not hold our positions for so long. And if you are very, very proud and you are very confident about a specific policy that you know would benefit not just during your term, but all the succeeding leaders and employees to come, then I think it is best for us to start recrafting and ensuring that whatever commitments and whatever vision we have are reflected in our company policy. So I look forward to hearing all of the different inputs from our speakers, and may we all enjoy this session. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Thank you very, very much, Len Len. It's true what you just said. But before I go into that, let me just introduce myself. My name is Monette Iturralde Hamlin, and I am the chairwoman of the Women's Business Council. And like Mylene, who welcomed you earlier, and Len Len, we truly believe that it's such an important topic about the corporate policy, because unless you write something down, the commitment is not that strong. You can promise as much as you want that you're going to take care of women, but unless you put it down in writing, then you really are committed. Okay, so please listen. This is going to be of two parts. The first part, we will have a strong resource person who will tell us all about corporate policy review and gender mainstreaming. Part two will be about the case authors who will be sharing their experiences about corporate policy review and gender mainstreaming. And that part will be moderated by a person, a wonderful person who I will introduce later. Please note, if you can see on the screen, on the lower right side, we have some hashtags. So please go and show your love by sharing your experiences, your thoughts about what's happening in today's event. Okay, so let me now go into the introduction of the wonderful person that we have to talk to us about this and to lay down the foundation about corporate policy review and gender mainstreaming. I have known her for several years, having worked with her in the IT BPM industry. And she is such a wonderful person. She's a motivational speaker. She's a success coach and a trainer who has actually studied under Jack Canfield. And as many of you know, Jack Canfield is the person behind Success Principles, one of the best authors. In fact, he's the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And that book series is something that has uplifted a generation of Filipinos the world over about what is really, really important about life. Our speaker is an engineer by profession. In fact, she has 2 degrees in engineering. And she has actually also taken up her master's in business administration, Regis program at the Ateneo Graduate School of Business. And she's a part-time faculty at the De La Salle College of St. Benilde, teaching human resource management program online, both on the undergraduate and the graduate studies. But this lady has been with the IT BPM industry, which is one of probably the biggest industry employer of the Philippines, and has given jobs to over 1.3 million Filipinos. And she was one of the first in that industry, paving the way for all of these other people. And what's more, she is actually number 13 in the top 100 most influential Filipino women to follow in LinkedIn in 2021. And she has also been part of the top 100 Filipinos to follow for motivation and inspiration in LinkedIn, both in 2019 and 2020. She's a book author, and actually her story, Proudly Filipino, can be found in Jack Canfield's book, Living the Success Principles. I am the proud owner of several of her books as well. And I just want to share with you the titles. Career Shift, Follow Your Passion. This is something that people like me are now having to read as we move on to the next part of our life. And this is available in bookstores and ebook. And her second book, this is a good title, Ask for a Bigger Blanket. Huwag magmamaluktot pag maikli ang kumot. In other words, make your blanket bigger. And this was released in November of 2019. Her third book, Forward Shift, Managing Your Life at the Time of a Pandemic. This is a guidance for mentors and coaches across the world, was released last year. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a virtual warm welcome to our speaker, Penny Bongato. Take it away, Penny.
Thank you. I was muted. I didn't know I was speaking already. Anyway, thank you very much for inviting me. And when I received the email from Mylene, I was so surprised. I was asking, why me? Why did you invite me for this talk? And then I answered my own question. Why not? Right? Why not? So I'm very, very honored to be here with you today to talk about gender mainstreaming and how has been my experience, a bit of my experience with the BPO industry, and in how we raise what we have done and what we need to do moving forward. I've heard of gender mainstreaming, GAD, from CHED when we were doing a project with CHED, and I had a very good friend there who was really an advocate for the gender and development. So I will be sharing my presentation with you. Okay, so thank you very much, and I'm timing myself just to make sure that we are on time. So I am a woman. And I'm very, very proud of being a woman. You know, when I was asked to write a story on Jack Canfield's book, Living the Success Principles, I was very honored to be asked to write a story. And the title of my story in that book was Proudly Filipino. I should have said Proudly Filipina. But, you know, I really wanted to show people that we Filipinos really have what it takes to be successful. And we women have what it takes to be successful. So Gloria Steinem, an American feminist, political activist, and editor who was an advocate of the women's liberation movement in the 60s and 70s, said a gender equal society would be one where the word gender does not exist, where everyone can be themselves. Wouldn't that be nice for all of us to be equals? And when I went to a place before that had really the discrimination between men and women, it was very disheartening to see that. So what is gender mainstreaming? So gender mainstreaming is an important key for organizations to achieve greater equality and champion women empowerment. So this means integrating a gender equality perspective at all stages and levels of policies and programs and projects. And we heard it, in fact, the United Nations established a gender mainstreaming as a global strategy. And we hear this over and over again, that there should really be an equality in all genders. So it's really an essential component in the creation, execution, assessment, and review of policies and processes in an organization. There should be equality, and we've seen that lately we question what's happening. Is there really equality? How can we make it? It seems equality in the metropolis, but what is it in the provinces, at least in Metro Manila, at least in the Philippines? So what is the importance of global mainstreaming? We see that only 23% women earn 23% less than men, and these you can read. But I'd like to emphasize some of these to you. Women labor force participation is only 63% compared to 94% for men. Women spend approximately 2.5 times more on unpaid care and domestic work than men. I remember the time that they were trying to, that Department of Labor was increasing the maternity leave. And employers were complaining and they were saying, increasing maternity leave? Why? Then we won't hire women anymore. And I was so surprised by that comment because I was in HR as well. And I was thinking the same thing too. But then I remembered, will I get pregnant just because of the increased maternity leave? Of course not. I will get pregnant because I want to have a baby. So it's not the how many leaves we have, the unpaid care and the domestic work that we need to get done. It's really what we are needed, what we what is needed for us to do. Only 24% of all national parliamentarians were women as of February 2019, a slow increase from 11.3% in 1995. Looking at heads of states, there are only 11 women as head of state and 12 are serving as head of government. I remember that when COVID hit, many of those who were able to protect their countries right away had women leaders, women presidents, or women prime ministers, or whatever you call them, but the heads of their state. Because foresight, maybe instinct, gut feeling, we have that in place. There's still countries with lack of protecting women from domestic violence, 49 countries. And there are about 650 million women and girls in the world who are married before the age of 18. And we not surprised perhaps to see that there are still arranged marriages, and at least 200 million girls and women worldwide have undergone some form of female genital mutilation. And if you think about it, it is estimated that 35% of women have experienced either physical and or sexual intimate partner violence or sexual abuse by a non-partner at some point in their lives. You know, my second book, Ask for a Bigger Blanket, has a story of a woman who was battered, not just verbally, but physically. And it took a lot of courage and guts for her to say, this is too much. I have to get out of that relationship. But not all women can do that. What would it take for us to be able to help women ourselves get out of relationships that are not beneficial to us? So it's very important that we have this gender mainstreaming. Okay, so I'll pass. Oops. So in the workforce, just a bit of information, 71% of women are in the service sector. This is coming from a project that we did with ILO. And they were mostly in education, service activities, human health and social work, retail and accommodations, and food and service activities. And in the Philippines, coming from the BPO sector, the IT BPM sector, we know that automation processes are now taking place, and it is really meant to enhance productivity, which is now being done as well. And 89% of the Filipinos in the BPO sector are of high risk of automation, which is already being done. I've seen a lot of this, even in recruitment, even in HR, wherein a lot of them are women, and 60% of them are women. So what does it mean? We are risking our jobs as well if we are not able to have that gender mainstreaming as part of the policies. Some information coming from the tech industry, and this is coming from CHED. And as you can see, women don't like to take IT work before. That was before. 2.6% only of women take IT. 97.4% are men. And in engineering world, 40.6% are women and 59.4% are men. But I see this now changing. There are more and more people young generations being encouraged to take STEM. Thanks to the efforts of various sectors who are encouraging girls to take the STEM in their senior high school. So in the tech VOC industry, tech VOC meaning animation, game development, and as you can see here in the contact center, there are many women. In animation, women are still lagging behind compared to the men. definitely in game development, but that is also changing. In programming, there are more women. And because, again, there's a lot of encouragement now for women to take the STEM curriculum in senior high, and which is good for us. And we have a group called Women Who Code, and they meet regularly. And I'm so proud to have participated in some of the projects of Women Who Code. So we need to have more people, more women, to take the things that are needed in the future, like tech. So what are the issues and challenges of women? So we face a more challenging career path compared to men. I remember the last workshop that we did for one company, and they had a boot camp in the other room, and the other training room. There are about 20 new employees and only one woman. So this is STEM, this is technology. So for in the STEM related work, most women are concentrated at the bottom, not at the top. I know that there are some women at the top now. I know some of them already, and I'm very, very proud that women in STEM are making it big time as well. So women face serious challenges in balancing work, family responsibilities. And we've seen this. We've seen this during this pandemic, during this lockdown. It's very hard to get emergency leaves for women. I do a lot of coaching, and when I do my coaching, I could hear them say, "Miss Penny, can you just wait because I'm breastfeeding? I have to pump milk," and that happens in the workplace. If you are working from home, what do men say about it? They don't have any things, any duties such as that. So how do you balance that? How do you make them understand that we women need that time to be able to take care of our family? Put that in the policy. Put that in the policy, and really be able to measure it, that it is all right for women to take time off to take care of their family, especially during this work from home situation that we are faced with. So there is still lack of female role models, which includes women from working in STEM-related industries, limited mentoring opportunities for women in STEM-related occupation. And as mentioned in the Women Who Code, they meet regularly, I know that there are companies who support women who code. And even they are the ones who are mentoring women to be able to do this and really enhance the capabilities of women. You know, when we did the project of for ILO, which is Women in STEM, and we did several soft skills modules. I was the lead technical consultant then, facilitator, and I had two friends with me, and we were doing this project for ILO, and they were saying, "What about the men?" The men were asking, "What about us? We need this too." But we wanted to really prioritize women because women did not have the same opportunities as men does even up to now, and we want to be able to empower women. Maybe it's the mindset as well, our mindset, and we need to change that mindset for the Filipinas. So in the Philippines, and this is way back in 2015, only 11% of board members in the Philippines are women. This may have changed already. 40% proportion of senior management are held by women. And 30% Filipinas in PSE's highest market capitalization companies are treasurers, corporate secretaries, and finance managers. So how do women, and most companies have women as chair or president, in retail, food, and pharmacy. And since I came from the BPO, wherein it's highly technical, how do we make women stand out in this emerging, I wouldn't say sunrise industry already, because we continues to support the economy of of our country. Latest study that I just got from IBPAP. This was a study made by ILO. Diversity in management, gender of CEOs and enterprises that reported having a CEO results in the Philippines and Asia and the Pacific. And as you can see, in the Philippines, 72% are men, 28% are women, compared to Asia Pacific, wherein 80% are men and 20% are women. So we do have more women CEOs in the Philippines compared to Asia Pacific. Enterprises in the Philippines with female CEOs were 16% more likely to have a gender balanced board and 15% more likely to have a gender balanced workforce, because perhaps they put it in their policies. And that is very, very important, as mentioned earlier. Now, how do women in the workplace cope? We change industries if we can't cope with it. We opt out of promotion. And I've heard this. There's a story about this, and I'd like to share this with you. When a woman was being asked if she would take a promotion to be the managing director, the answer she gave was, "I will ask my husband first. Give me some time." But when a man is asked to take on a managing director post, they will immediately say yes. Why do we have to ask approval? Can't we say yes right away? I'll tell you, and this is something that my husband and I have discussed already. I am the breadwinner of the family, and he takes care of the household. It's difficult for both of us, but that's our arrangement. And with that, we still are able to communicate and appreciate each other. Change positions, scale back on their work hours to focus on childcare, and sometimes it does help. It does create a lot of problems too. Find working arrangements that gives flexibility to attend to their family and children. And the entry points of gender mainstreaming is what is important now for us to discuss. First of all, policies. And this is what was mentioned earlier by the Philippine Commission on Women, the 4 entry points on policies on gender mainstreaming. First of all, policies, really official announcement declaring support to gender equality and creation of memo and department orders. Really make it a policy in the organization. Next is people. Identify relevant stakeholders who will promote the gender mainstreaming programs. Identify gender and development GAD champions among top management down to rank and file. It is important that everyone knows that gender mainstreaming or having gender equality is important in the workforce. Have programs, and this is the issuance and execution of GAD policies and activities and advocacies, and utilize analytical tools and really measure the programs. How effective are these programs? I know that there are some companies who have required to report diversity and inclusion. And I hope they're reporting not just for the sake of reporting, because I hope that they're doing this because they believe it is the right thing to do. Women have it. Women, we have it. We are as bright. I tell you, we are good. We can be the best that we can be. And if we are able to have that opportunity, the programs, the policies, we can really excel. And of course, enabling the mechanism. supporting tools, resources, mechanism to ensure the GAD programs are sustainable, which includes funding and training. So there are complementary and distinct roles that are important in this. There should be a sponsor, and the sponsor of the gender mainstreaming and GAD gender and development projects need to be top management. So usually coming from top management or the decision maker, he or she will set the overall directions of the gender mainstreaming effort. So it's very important that we have a sponsor who will push this program. The change agents, and the change agent is the individual or group who will spearhead and implement the programs derived from the gender mainstreaming discussions. Change agents are so critical to the success of this program. The target, of course, they are focused on the efforts and those who will benefit from the development and improvement. I know some women who say, no, I'll just do this, or ang ganito lang ako. Remember, you can be the best that you can be. There are so many limiting beliefs of women, and that is one thing that I am very passionate about, taking out the limiting beliefs of women that this is all that we can do, because we can do a lot more given the opportunities and given the change in mindset and the openness of the organization. And of course, the advocate. As you can see, this person looks, when she looks in the mirror or envisions herself, she envisions herself as Superwoman or Wonder Woman, someone who is really capable of doing what she wants to do. This is a group or an individual who will be instrumental in promoting and monitoring the success of gender mainstreaming efforts. So we have advocates who will push us, push the others to be able to be the best that we can be. I want to discuss this in detail, the levels of gender mainstreaming, just slightly. First step, the first level is the foundation formation, which is raising people's awareness and generating support for gender mainstreaming. It is very important for us to raise the level of awareness. Level 2 is the installation of strategic mechanism, transition of the organization towards gender mainstreaming, putting key people, necessary policies, structures, and systems and mechanisms in place to facilitate and sustain gender mainstreaming. Third, GAD, gender and development, institutionalizing GAD-related activities within the organization. And the fourth is commitment enhancement and institutionalization, which is really important when we institutionalize gender mainstreaming in our organizations. And lastly, replication and innovation. And GAD has been fully mainstreamed into the organization's mandate, and it is being recognized as a model of gender mainstreaming. So these 5 levels of gender mainstreaming is so important for us to be able to really showcase what we can do, because we can do a lot more, really a lot more. So I'll end with this quote by Ban Ki-moon, who is a South Korean politician and diplomat and served as the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations from 2007 to 2016. He said, "Achieving gender equality requires the engagement of women and men, girls and boys, It is everyone's responsibility. We have to take out our and clear our mindset that we are all equal. So thank you very much, Monette.
Thank you very much, Penny, for giving us this foundation on what is corporate policy review as well as gender mainstreaming. And I'm sure that there are a lot of questions from the audience. And I just invite you to kindly write your questions on the chat box or on the Q&A button. And of course, please don't forget to show the love by giving your reactions, as well as for sharing your thoughts about what's happening today. So I'd like to start off the questions, Penny, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Like corporate policy review, gender mainstreaming, all of these are important, but is this something just for the big guys, like for huge corporations, or is this something also that even MSMEs need to put in place? As you know, the bulk of the businesses in the Philippines are really MSMEs. Could you share your thoughts on that, please?
I can relate to that, Manette, because I'm a member of PMAP and you are a member of PMAP. And most of the members of PMAP are not big corporations. Most of the members of PMAP are SMEs and MSMEs. And I'm part of Go Negosyo as well and Kalye Negosyo. So this is not just for big corporations. This is for all organizations, whether you're big or small. Gender mainstreaming, if you will notice, the young ones now, many women are outstanding. They do their thing. They're not shy. They really push on what they believe in. Unless there are those limiting beliefs that we parents tell them not to do. Sometimes it's our fault why it becomes like that. That's why it's important for us to believe that, because we shape their lives as well. So it begins with us.
Yep. I think it really has to do with the value formation. And I guess that value formation begins at home, because we need to set that example to our children, no, on equality. But
remember, Monette, when we were young, when our generation, study, work, first job, last job, and then or just married and have children.
Yeah, those are the options.
Mm-hmm.
You forgot becoming a nun.
Oh,
the option I had.
Becoming a nun or becoming a teacher, remember?
Yes. But let's say, okay, so we're talking about corporate policies, and there are many different corporate policies that are on gender equality and gender mainstreaming. In fact, when you started your presentation, you gave a slew of statistics. The one that really struck me is the pay gap between men and women, and also harassment and all of that. So if we were the audience here, we're business leaders, not just in the private sector, we also have people from the public sector who are present here on the workshop, on the WOMENar rather. Where do you think we should start? Is it on the putting in a policy regarding recruitment, or giving opportunities, or harassment? Where does one begin?
In recruitment, for multinational or global companies, you don't need to put the picture, you don't need to put the gender anymore, right? But in Filipino companies, they still require the picture and the gender and the age. And it begins with that. And sometimes the biases comes in with those things, with the beginning of employment. And that's why I've been always saying, don't put your picture, don't put your age, because there are a lot of biases when it comes to recruitment. And so at the beginning, even just your policies in recruitment should already say that there should be no discrimination in terms of gender, no discrimination in terms of whether it's LGBTQ, pride. A human being is a human being, period. and each of us can be the best that we can be.
Totally agree on that. I mean, my company is an agency and we have the whole spectrum and they are all wonderful people. I see that our beloved attorney Lorna Kapunan has raised her hand. Lorna, would you like to state your question out loud for everyone to hear? Can we put, okay, Lorna, go ahead.
Well, first, thank you so much for this, this reminder to all of us. But I'd like to say that in most of our talks, we really don't talk about the role of the church, no? And starting with the marriage vows, when the priests still to this day say, "Woman, obey thy husband." That's not only wrong, that's also illegal, because in the family code, we removed the obligation of obedience. Now it is the obligation of mutual respect. I can see when we women advocates talk about this, the church, the role of the church, 300 years of Catholicism, which has instilled in us the patriarchy. Starting with the Lord, we always pray to the Lord, no? And we always respect our husbands. And even in the marriage vows, at the end, the priest says, I now declare you man and wife. Why is it that the woman becomes a wife, but the man never becomes a husband? Okay.
Good point.
Good point. So it's always man and wife, no, not husband and wife. And even the church, how come the church does not accept nuns as priests, women as priests, no? And the traditional answer there is because women, nuns, menstruate, and therefore we are not pure. Anyway, in our advocacy, yeah, that is what they say, kasi hindi daw pure ang mga kababaihan kasi nagme-menstruate tayo. That's why we can never become priests.
Wow.
Anyway, as advocates, how do we address this? Because I have attended many gender seminars, and somehow the role of the church really is the white elephant in the room.
That's very difficult to answer. Really, very, very difficult to answer. But if you, Attorney Lorna, if you watch the movie The Shack, there's a wonderful movie called The Shack. I'm not so sure whether it's in Netflix. We're in husband, family, husband, wife, and a small child. And the small child was kidnapped by a serial killer. And the husband became demotivated, lost everything, mentally challenged. And in his sleep, he dreamt. And in his dream, and the story about the shack is about that dream. God was a woman. So I love that movie very much because God was a woman, not a man.
Maybe we should start.
Woman, and a black woman at that.
You know,
sometimes when I pray, Monette, I say, our Father and Mother who art in heaven. Because the best prayer really it's the Lord's Prayer. So now, in my mind, I always say, our Father and Mother who art in heaven. And just one last comment. I belong to a profession where you are courageous. I'm in the legal profession. And I hate it when they always say, magaling yan si Attorney Kapunan, she has balls. I mean, I don't have balls. But that's how they measure courage in the legal profession, having balls. So I keep saying, well, I have a vagina and I'm happy with my vagina. Anyway, it's mindset thing and being able to say, not accepting the norms. I mean, men can keep their balls, but I'm very happy with my vagina. Thank you. Thank you, Penny, for this. And I know it was a difficult question. I've been wrestling with it. But as they say, we're getting there.
You know what? You know what, Attorney Lorna? I am with you all the way. You know, I believe that we are like this. At least the Philippines is like this because we have been colonized. That's why we're very good in contact centers. We're always been of service. We're always been servants. That's why we have so many. Sorry, that's why we have so many domestic helpers, and they want their children to be domestic helpers as well. And that's what my second book is all about. Ask for a bigger blanket. You can be whatever you want to be. You can dream. Look at Mirna Padilla, whose parents she now own an IT company, whose parents told her they lived in Bohol near the shoreline. Taga-sisid lang siya ng isda. Ang sabi sa kanya ng parents niya, huwag kang mangarap ng malaki kasi hanggang dito lang tayo. Question is, do we say that to our children? How can we make sure that our children are going to be the best version of themselves as well? Because yung pagiging having had been colonized and having that aliping sanggigilid at saka aliping namamahay has brought a lot of negative mindset about what women can do. And we can do a lot more than men, I would say.
You wanna do a follow-up, Lorna? Because you're on mute, we cannot hear you.
No, I'm saying thank you so much, really. We need more pennies in the world.
That is true.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah,
May
totally
I ask a
agree.
question?
Okay, Mylene has a question. Go ahead, Mylene.
Yes. Thank you so much, Penny. You know, I like you are a champion of women in STEM, and being someone from Women in Technology, I commend you for all your efforts in helping these girls have confidence. And that's one of the challenges of our girls in STEM, is that they're so, you know, if they're in a room full of other boys of you know, is in the same STEM program, they just keep quiet and they just, you know, just follow what they're asked to do. But my question is, okay, we have a lot of our audience from the Philippine Science High School system. I saw them during the registration, and we have also our friends from the Department of Science and Technology. And I attended one of the APEC sessions about women in science. And one of the bottlenecks is that the girls are asked to prove themselves more than the boys. Is there a way for us to increase the quota of girls, like in the college or university, so that they can have a shot in being maybe an engineer, a scientist, or an inventor, or a technocrat? You know, how can we help them?
You know, from what I have heard, because I'm an educator as well, right? I teach in college. Women don't like STEM. Women are scared of numbers. It's us. Why are we afraid? Because our parents said so.
Yeah, if I can just put in
Monette.
my sense here, kasi it's really the upbringing. It's like we are taught to play with dolls and boys are taught to play with cars. So immediately they think, you know, that they're going to be engineers and scientists, and we're going to be cooking for our husbands and taking care of the children. So it really starts at home. But what you brought up, Mylene, no, yesterday at the Government Academe Industry Network, which is another event I was at, we were looking at digital skills and digital DigComp, to have a digital standards for the entire country in terms of evaluating the proficiency of people. And I asked a question of our speakers. Our speakers were Jonathan De Luzuriaga and Monchito Ibrahim. And I asked them, what about men versus women when it comes to digital skills? How would you compare them? Are we giving the same kind of opportunity? And their answer puzzled me. They said that it's almost the same, the number of women and men who take up IT. However, the number of women who actually apply for the job is very little. It's the men who apply for the job. And that for me is systemic. That is something that we need to change. And perhaps this is where some sort of policy can come in, where we are
Yes.
able to encourage the women and show them that they have exactly the same kind of opportunities for employment.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. And Monette, I'd like to add on to that. It's the limiting belief that we have been trained, that has been inculcated in our minds, that ang technology is for men and HR, finance, and the other support systems are for women. That's a limiting belief. And that's why I took this Canfield program, to be able to help. And you know my mission. My mission is to be able to touch the journey to 100,000 Filipino lives, for Filipinos and Filipinas to be the best version of themselves. And it's not just 100,000 now, it's 1 million. I'm aiming for 1 million.
Penny,
Mm.
we are behind you. Ra, ra,
Penny,
ra.
Penny, I am leading the Philippine Robotics Society. We have 1,800 schools in our belt. So in our community, please, we'll welcome you, because we need to change the mindset of parents that women and girls have a place in STEM.
Oh,
Thank you
yes.
very much for answering my question. Thank you.
Lenlen Messina has a question. She has raised her hand. I'd like to give her the floor. Lenlen, please raise your question
Yeah.
now.
Actually, not really a question, but also a point for reflection, that outside us challenging and really boosting the confidence of our girls, of our women about the limiting factors of what they can and they cannot do, I think we also need to start raising these points and question, or maybe encourage companies to start reviewing what are the policies that they could really, refine, revise, to accommodate, and to really show that they are very much willing to get on board more women and more girls into this space and into this industry. Because I see in some of the studies that we've been doing, the person's perspective, the person's confidence is one factor, but the company culture also plays a role. And if you have a culture that is not welcoming of women's talents, and if you have a culture that would always look for the extra mile that the girls and women can do so they can prove themselves, so they can be promoted compared to their male counterparts, how is that going to change? So I think there needs to also be certain push on that level when it comes to company and corporate culture. Thank you.
You
Thank
know,
you, Lenlen. Penny, go ahead.
Landon, I have a program which was asked of me to do, because women in meetings, in client meetings, don't speak up. They just keep quiet. So 2 companies already approached me. Can you give us a workshop on speak up and be heard? And these are lawyers, huh? Lawyers from Ateneo, UP.
Oh,
They don't speak up. They just keep quiet. And I was saying,
Get Attorney Kapunan to be your speaker there.
attorney, you
volunteer.
should be the speaker
I
there.
volunteer.
How do we
please
make-
put me in your advocacy group.
Oh yes. How do we make them speak up? Why do they keep quiet? But babar top notchers, and they still keep quiet. Kasi baka yung boss ko magalit sa akin pag nagkamali ako eh. 'Di ba? It's always been like that. But when will we ever learn? When will we ever take that opportunity to speak up?
true.
Kami, I have to tell you, when I was growing up, my parents would say, pag sinabi ko, umupo ka na lang dyan. I'm a baby boomer. So, but now they ask why. And I'm glad they ask why. And I am glad they question. At home, but in the workplace, they keep quiet.
Yeah. Penny, speaking up is really very, very important for women. Actually, harking back when I was in college and doing my thesis, you know what my thesis was? Assertiveness training. I put together a course for my fellow college students. So assertiveness training. And my training at the time, my test, okay, you get into a jeep, you give 25 pesos and you ask for the change. most of them will not ask for the change because they're jahe. So it's really speaking up. We have a lot of chat here, comments from our guests. Let me just read up some. This is from Legaspi Ravas from PSHS. For centuries, the gender debate has been fixated largely on equality, and look where it led us. Race for parity with male dominance, and yet if we look at our current crisis, global warming, etc., it lacks the nurturing maternal symbol. Our survival is a planet now, given that we are in code red, naku, totoo yan, by the IGPCC of the UN. Why can't women be women? More mothering for the world, for the environment, for our very survival. Totally agree.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, I was talking to my students, and let's talk about education first. I was talking to my students. Final exam is a one-on-one with them, and I have 72 students. That's 36 hours for me, 36 hours on one-on-one, and I will talk to them for 30 minutes. And what will that one-on-one be? Hearing them out. How are they doing? I make them do their vision boards, their goals in their lives beyond the pandemic, and explain to me what do you want to be? They want to own a restaurant, they want to, they want to have a house, a beach house, and make them see the future and make them see that there is things beyond what we see today. And I'm very, very happy, fortunate to teach at CSB, because they give me the liberty to do this. This is outside the curriculum, in fact. And many of the students told me, do you know, Miss Penny, you are the only professor who spends time with us and talks to us, not just as students, but as human beings, asking us how you are. And just the matter of being able to show to them that they care, we care. Nurturing. Women are nurturing, which makes them more connected with us, with the organization, with whatever they're doing. So it's look at New Zealand with a woman prime minister. Where's COVID there? None. Maybe is it because they're in a faraway place? I don't know. But may gut feel ang babae. Nararamdaman natin eh.
True.
Yeah. And then they're loving care.
We have a question from the floor from Annette Baleda. Annette, you have the floor.
Actually, it's not a question, Miss Monette. I would just like to add, because of that question a while ago, may I just put in my consents. Related to the question on in the entry points for gender mainstreaming, as discussed by Miss Penny. Let me just share our experience at the Philippine Commission on Women when we do our gender mainstreaming. So we do not usually require agencies to do all 4 of the entry points of gender mainstreaming, but examine the agency, the organization, the business, and because there are nuances in each of the organizations and businesses. So whether it would be good to work on policies, so you could start with policies. As Ms. Lenlen had mentioned a while ago, it's a good, policies are good, no, in order to sustain what we have started. So talagang maganda, nakasulat. Meron tayong pasusundan kasi people won't stay there forever. So yan, magagawa pa rin ang ating mga existing gender equality policies. And then if you want to work with your people first, for example, you want to first gender sensitize them, you want to ensure that they understand why it is important, no, to practice gender equality in your organization. And then, of course, our very important learning in the PCW, the champions in that organization, especially top-level people, because they are there in the absence of top-level officials who are very supportive of their technical people. Mawawala hindi natutuloy. Meron talaga mga hurdles, no, difficulty yung ating mga technical staff. And of course, the enabling mechanisms that they could put up, no, meron ba silang plans and budget to be able to do it? Kasi kung walang budget, ang plan, it's a joke. And then, meron ba silang data information to support ano ba talaga yung gender issues natin sa ating organization? Ano yung i-prioritize natin? How can we resolve the issues in our sector, no? Especially sa business industry? And then we have ba the tamang mga mechanisms? We have ba our God focal point system? And we have ba the programs, the projects, the activities, no? Are we able to implement our PAPs to be able to address talaga the gender issues that we want to address to ensure that our strategy, the gender mainstreaming strategy, could lead towards the gender equality that we are aiming for. Ayan. Thank you, Ms. Monet. Thank you, Ms. Penny.
And that is from the Philippine Commission on Women. Thank you so much, Annette, for sharing that. In fact, we had something else on the chat box, and let me just read this. This is from DOST, actually. Rosella Dolor, she's recommending, no? Maybe we need to revisit Republic Act number 10911, series of 2016, on equal opportunity principle in employment, and put emphasis on the stand on hiring more women in the workplace. Kasi nga, kung mandated, you follow. But of course, that means kailangan qualified.
Qualified. At saka din, Monet, na monitor. May reporting. Kasi like ISO, di ba? When you do the ISO, yeah, they do all the process. They do all the documentation. And the next ISO certification is 3 years from now. They forget everything. And 3 years after, they will cram to backtrack all the things that they've done. Cannot be. It really has to be consistent. Consistency is key.
So this consistency, how do you drive that into organization, Penny? I know kasi once you write it, you're committed. But that's just the first part, di ba? As you mentioned, it has to be consistent. So let's say we put something in a company. This is our policy. Let's say no gender gap. I mean, no gender pay gap. Example, kung policy yon. Paano natin yan ma-make sure that people actually do it? And we don't wait for the ISO to come back in 3 years for that to be reviewed. What are your recommendations for this?
My recommendation is again, the sponsor. The sponsor, the champion should be able to put it in their metrics, in their scorecard, and be able to measure it regularly. So if it's part of your bonus, if it's part of your increase, and it's part of getting things done, what gets measured gets done. If you don't measure it, it won't get done. So it has to be measured. It has to be put in writing for it to get done.
And the bonus is tied to that. So that is super duper important kasi kaperahan will get
push them to do it. Yeah.
Diba? If you don't measure, you forget about it, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Thank you. We're getting down to the wire because we do have a second part. We are going to be hearing from great people. Penny, you wanted to do some announcements about your books?
Yes. Thank you, Monet.
Would you like to share?
Yes, I would like to share that this is my contact details just in case you want to get in touch with me. I'm a certified coach of ICF, and I'm very much into a lot of advocacies and helping. I love education, though it doesn't, as we said, teachers don't get really paid well, not like in the BPO. But there was an opportunity, I will tell you, there was an instance in my life wherein work got in the way of teaching. So I had to choose. Mag-resign ba ako para magturo na lang or hihinto ako sa pagtuturo? Well, I chose teaching. I resigned from work because it was getting in the way of my teaching, because I wanted to touch the youth's lives, for the young ones to be the best version of themselves. And just a little promotion, I wrote 3 books, Career Shift. I'm an engineer by education, shifted many times. I had 2 engineering degrees, which I'm an 11th placer in the chemical engineering board exam that I never practiced.
Oh,
Ah,
wow.
yes. As for a bigger blanket, many stories of people who pwede na yan, pwede na nating pagtiyagaan yan. I'll give you an example. We went to with the students, we went to a conference in Chicago, and we need water. All of us need water, and there are some of us in the room who need more water than others. So they went to the supermarket right beside the hotel to buy water. I didn't do that. I called housekeeping and asked housekeeping, "Can I have more bottles of water, please?" And then housekeeping said, "How many do you want?" Then I said 6, and they gave me 6. Why did they buy? Because they were so scared to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. The last time I asked was for a discount in something that I bought from the online shopping, and they said yes. So when you get a no, did you lose anything? None. But if you didn't even try to ask, you wouldn't know whether they will say yes. So always, always, always ask. And lastly, I have an ebook. It's called Forward Shift, Managing Your Life at the Time of a Pandemic. My books are available at this
National
bookstores. Yeah, national bookstores and feastbooks.ph. And I'm giving away this book, a free ebook. And my friend Joy, who is with us, is dropping it in the chat box. So Joy, is it already in the chat box?
Hi, Miss Penny. This is Joy. I think because I'm not a co-host, so I can't send an attachment.
Okay. So
Can you vibrate to me, then I can put it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, I can drop it in the Dropbox
you can chat
now.
box. Yeah, sige.
Yeah. So it's there.
I read the book Forward Shift. It is really a very good book, especially during the COVID pandemic. Thank you so much, Penny, especially for mental wellness. It really is. Hits the note. Thank you.
So thank you for allowing me to share this book, and again, and people were saying, why are you giving it for free? Because I want to give it away for free.
And because of that, we love you, Penny. Maraming salamat. Talagang we need all of the positivism that's there and that you can give to our people, right? Especially now, because these are dark times, and we need people like you to shine a beacon of light for us, to be lifted out of the dark places where we are. So maraming salamat, Penny. We'd like to give you a thank you certificate if we could have that flashed right now. And may we also ask Len to join us here as we present the certificate of appreciation to Penny. Mylene, would you like to do the honors? You're on mute.
This certificate of appreciation is presented to Penny C. Campo Bongato, Director of Power in You Philippines, for inspiring and for giving the valuable insights during the I Am WOMENar Learning Series. I am a strategist, corporate policy review, and gender mainstreaming. Today, August 12, 2021. Signed by myself, Turi, and of course, Monette Iturralde Hamlin. Thank you so much, Penny. Thank you. And for the ebooks, ladies and gentlemen, please download it right now.
Thank you very, very much.
And thank you for inviting me. It is an honor to be invited by you.
Thank you.
The honors is ours. Thank you.
Okay.
Mylene, did you want the group photo of everyone now, or shall we do it after the second part?
When we have, can we have everyone to please switch on their video because this will be a segue to our next activity before we go to the second part, right, Monette? Yeah.
Yes.
This is exciting because I am a strategist is our topic. So we will strategize, do something different. Okay, let us know. Okay, switch on your videos, please, ladies and gentlemen.
And Wax is taking the
All right.
photo.
Yes,
They
okay.
are not allowing us to
Right.
open.
Okay,
And
switch on your videos, please.
Yeah. We are disabled from opening our camera.
Wax, hello.
Everybody.
Hindi daw, they can't daw.
They can't
Yeah,
though.
we can. We are disabled.
Okay,
Oh.
then perhaps we can let Wax figure that out and do part 2 first.
Okay.
Okay, so
You
thank
may
you
na
very
daw.
much. Pwede na?
Ayan. Yeah, pwede na, pwede na.
Pwede na
I can
daw.
see.
Ah,
Oo.
okay.
And
Ayan.
lastly for the students, you can be whatever you want to be. Remember that. Don't let other people dictate your lives. You are responsible for your life.
Yes. And we have also educators here can echo what you have just said, Penny.
Yeah, if you want to invite me to speak to your students, I would love that.
Oh, you
Can
will
I
get
invite you?
invitations.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
I
can
would
I
love
invite
that.
you to my radio program this Saturday?
O ayan, meron na. Sa radyo na daw.
Attorney
All right,
Lorna?
everybody.
Of
Yes,
course.
Okay,
yes.
photo. All right, group photo. Okay,
I'll
everybody.
get your
where we can-
number on the chat
Okay.
group,
Okay.
in
All
this
right.
chat box.
Okay. All
Thank
right,
you.
everyone. Okay, everyone smile. Okay, Sir Wax, next page. Wow, beautiful faces. Okay, everyone, look at the camera, smile. One more page. Okay, I think we have, okay, everyone smile. Okay, one more page. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, so thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Penny. This ends the first part of our webinar this afternoon, and we're now going to the second part. But before I introduce our speakers, I think we have some surprise that's up for us. Please stay tuned, watch the screen. Something's gonna pop out.
They have to switch on their video too. Everybody.
Way back when, in the beginning of time, man made the fire, then the wheel went from a horse to an automobile. He said the world in mind. He took the oceans and sky. He set the borders, built the walls. He won't stop till he owns it all. And here we are, standing on the brink of disaster. Enough is enough, is enough, is enough. I know the answer. Put a woman in charge.
Wow. Put a woman in charge. That is so powerful. And it's a perfect introduction to our next part, part 2. And for this, I would like to introduce the case lead for this chapter. You see, as Mylene mentioned earlier, Womenars are actually, there are 6 of this, and I will talk more about it later during the closing. But this is the 5th installment. And for this one, we have the chapter lead author and 3 authors who will be talking about this topic. Let me introduce our chapter lead for this topic. Our chapter lead is a vice chairwoman and president of Dusitani Philippines, which is the owning company of Dusitani Manila. And she is also a director and the president of La Bella Lifestyle Properties, Inc. She's involved in so many social, civic, and professional organizations. For instance, she is trustee and treasurer of the following 3 organizations. First, the Outstanding Women in the Nation Service Foundation, or what we call TOWNS, the Institute of Solidarity in Asia, or ISA, and the National Music Competitions for Young Artists Foundation, or NAMSIA. She is also a trustee of the Shareholders Association of the Philippines, or SharePhil, as well as the Philippine Commission on Population and Development, or PCPD. She is vice chair of the Management Association of the Philippines Green EDSA Movement and Arts and Culture Committee. Our chapter lead is a certified public accountant. She has completed her Bachelor of Science in Commerce at Assumption Convent, graduating magna cum laude, and her Master in Business Administration at the Kellogg School of Business, Northwestern University. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Evelyn Reyes Singson. Evelyn, over to you.
Thank you, Monette. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies. We are lucky to have with us today 3 of the most outstanding professional women and prominent business leaders in their respective industries. Our ladies can speak with authority on this subject today. Having walked the talk, they all started their careers at the bottom of the pyramid and rose through the ranks to reach the top of their organizations. But what is more impressive is that they broke the glass ceiling, so to speak, in companies which are not owned or controlled by their families. This means that they achieved their success through their own efforts in competition with men, surmounting the odds and breaking barriers as they journey to the apex of their careers. While our speakers are no doubt models of success, they are also wives, mothers, daughters, siblings, and they have ably managed their homes, their family and community responsibilities, while concurrently performing their executive jobs to the very best. How did they manage doing all this? Let us hear them tell their stories. May I now first call Imelda Sinisa Tiongson. Ida, as we call her, is the president of a special purpose vehicle, or SPAV, formed by the International Bank, ING. She is a turnaround artist because she handles distressed companies and turns them around into profitable businesses. Ida grew up in Australia and started as a banker with the Australian National Bank. She then returned to Manila and joined the Philippine National Bank. She is a recognized fintech expert and is very involved in 2 professional organizations of fintech. Aside from that, Ida is also an active member of the Institute of Corporate Directors and is an independent director of several boards, one of which is publicly listed. And I think most of us do not know this, but Ida is also a very good hip-hop dancer. So thank you, Ida, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Evelyn. I was actually bopping away when the Woman in Charge music got annoying. So let me, sorry, let me just fix that a bit. Sorry, so it's kind of playing up a bit. Hang on a second. Okay. Oh, I guess I have to live with this. All right, let me just fix this slightly. It's not supposed to look like this. I used another app. I just loaded it and it's running contra. So that's what you get when you're in technology. Okay, so thank you, Miss Evelyn. It's my honor to be here. Miss Mylene, Manette, Len, UN Women, Womenbiz members, to our wonderful guest speaker, Miss Penny. I learned a lot from you too. Co-panelists, Miss Noy and Miss Flor. You know, well, yeah, this is why I'm using my virtual background. So while I have, you know, it started like this. No, I was just observing just over about a couple of months ago when things were open. You know, I was getting my car service, and I noticed in the reception area of Toyota, there's basically women, but in the service area, 0 women. This is actually not the picture, so I just wanted to be a little bit visual there. It kind of reminded me of my days in National Australia Bank when, you know, same thing. So in National Australia Bank, where corporate lending department, there was approximately about 40 men, and I was practically the only woman. And by the way, that was in late 80s. I was blessed enough to have that opportunity to be part of that corporate banking, and I was rejoicing. Getting into corporate banking, I thought I made it because it's like the cream of the crop. So I had the privilege of being part of the group. There were 2 of us women, and the other one is a secretary. So I had that privilege being part of the group, but you know, even if I may flex a bit, you know, the millennials will say, "Can I just flex?" So if I may flex a bit, i.e., brag a bit, I did get, you know, kind of perfect score in accounting for bankers, and that was an exam before you get into the corporate banking. I was getting outstanding appraisal, so I felt that I had a ability. You know, some of us women will still say felt that ability. It's because of you're kind of trying to be humble, but you're kind of bragging. Anyhow, that's part of the area that I have to actually get away from me. So I thought I made it, but when I got there, you know, there's equal policy, equal gender policy as early as that time in National Australia Bank. In fact, I was placed under women in banking. They chose 9 women in National Australia Bank. I was one of them. But when I got there, being the most junior in a group of 40 men and the only woman, you know, I was practically treated like everyone's assistant. But I thought, okay, maybe because I'm new, and yeah, but unfortunately, a couple of years later, new male employees came in, and even though I had a higher appraisal from them, they were actually getting a better career than I was. My career remained stagnant until eventually boss noticed, thank goodness to this mentoring concept. So eventually got promoted senior lending officer. And by the way, those below that I was below of them, the tide has reversed and I'm already above them. So I'm trying to hasten this as much as possible because of the 5 minutes. All right, so I needed to adjust my life in order to not become stressful. I became their boss, but I needed to adjust my life. I needed to humble myself. Miss Penny, isa ako doon, bumaluktot ng kumot. I was the one adjusting. In my mind, you know, it's a way for me to have a more comfortable and not so I'm trying to use look for a word that's lower than what I'm thinking, but a life that is not as stressful. So there. So is this actually unique with the women? I don't think it is. In fact, looking hindsight, really, as Ms. Penny mentioned, what I've learned from that particular lesson, there's been stereotyping based on gender. I want to share this because this is only this is only a 2019 stats. I know it's not that clear, but there's still a lot of businesses or industries that are really, really male dominated, and according to here, close to 100%. So I'm not going to go through every one of them. With the case of National Australia Bank, and by the way, eventually, to date, there's about 50-50, in fact, 60-40 more women than men because of that conscious effort. And, on my part, I believe, and I hope you guys won't just crash on me on this one. I believe I was partly to blame. And why is that? Because of my look then. This is not me, but I couldn't find a picture of me. Maybe I threw it away. There are do's and don'ts, and being I love hip hop. I used to be a champion hip hop, incidentally. I had a blonde spiky hair, and I was wearing kind of like semi-fashionable at work. And I think when I say I'm partly to blame, yes, I had the ability, but the confidence wasn't really there. And the look, I was like, I wanted to be myself, and it's kind of not suitable for banking. So back to here, I'm blessed enough to have a mentor then, an advisor, and of course, important to have that really fairness. And you are correct, if it's not measured, and if it's not in the KRA, and if it's not under the policies, then it's only surface. So to date, I still think many women are still struggling. And that's why I think it's very, 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 very important for most of us to really push having strategy in our workplace. Keyword, conscious effort. I still say it's kind of like a chain. You have to push yourself up, that confidence level, and have that mentor and have a policy. So it's a chain. It's not just them, it's you and them. And okay, I think my time is up. So that's basically about it. I'm a mom of 3. I still like hip hop dancing. I'm now a boss, board director of several companies, humble, proud mom, a woman advocate, and I have stopped saying, why not me? Back to you, Miss Evelyn.
Thank you, Ida. Okay, our next speaker, of course, is Nora Terrado. We all call her Noya. She is the country head of Legato Health Technologies, Philippines, a fully owned subsidiary of Anthem Inc., a leading healthcare benefits company in the United States. She is a pillar of the IT BPM industry and dreams of making the Philippines the global hub of service excellence, particularly in healthcare. Nora led the Philippine Software Industry Association and the IT Business Processing Association as trustee and president. She had 3 years experience in government as Undersecretary of the Department of Trade and Industry. While in the department, Noya introduced changes and initiatives that promoted export trade, foreign investments, and women empowerment. Noya enjoys spending her private time with family and friends. So let us now hear Noya.
Hello, hi everyone. I hope I'm audible, and thank you, Evelyn, for your kind introduction. Thank you, Penny, for an hour of insightful ideas exchange, and to the organizers of this event. I would like to preface this by saying a bit of my background. I grew up with 2 strong women. That's my mother, Anastasia, and my aunt, Alegria. I watched them exemplify grit as they faced many life challenges, and with courage, they overcome the challenges with purpose and plan. They are tough women, but they were also devoted helpmates to their respective spouses and caring matriarchs in the clan. My father, Filomeno, was my mother's avid fan and supporter. He encouraged her to yearn, learn, and earn so that she could realize her dreams. So, shaped in this environment, I grew up watching them, and I knew that unwavering support and the freedom to learn is really a reality. Going back to Anastasia, she honed her skills and talents because of that environment. She ultimately became the confident person that she aspired to be.
No,
So fast forward, after graduating from college in Bacolod City, I moved out from home and migrated to Metro Manila to join SGV. My environment suddenly became so much bigger. At SGV, I had a series of big aha experiences. But to summarize, I was introduced to the School of Hard Knocks at SGV, and there I learned the art of and science of accountancy and finance. Being a woman was not even an issue at all because together with the talents from all over the Philippines, yung mga bagong salta sa Maynila, so to speak, we were determined to succeed. At SGV, I was exposed to environments that framed my work style, like understanding the job content and the cues, my purpose, the purpose why things are done, adding value in every interaction, and enjoying the power of reward system in a meritocracy. This helped me form the habits that come by handy even today. So let me introduce to you two cases in my life. First, case study number 1. As I was transitioning from finance executive to business leader at Headstrong Philippines in 2003, and Penny was part of Headstrong, by the way, I noticed that our high-profile application development project was largely composed of men. The system being rolled up at that time was complex and would serve train and bus commuters with diverse profiles. To stimulate creativity and perspective, we added more women in the project team, with Mary Rose leading the solution design group. As a result, the team developed a software that met the broader needs of the commuting public. The team members, women and men alike, benefited from the collective design thinking and the software engineering intelligence, and learned more from accurate group thinking and collaboration. So gaining from this experience, purposely assembling diverse teams became a policy and best practice at Headstrong. So let me move to case number 2. This is now Legato. Ramon and I were the pioneers of Legato Health Technologies Philippines, and I would have to repeat what Evelyn said. We are a fully owned subsidiary of a US health benefits company called Anthem. Ramon and I incubated the company in 2019 with a shared purpose and mission of improving lives and communities and making healthcare simpler. I was determined to maintain a workforce demographics that is representative of the customer base, the healthcare providers, and health card members. Ray, who is our HR director, and her team have to be deliberate to recruit, retain, and develop associates of diverse gender, sexual orientation, including LGBT, religion, age, skills, and abilities. Gender inclusive and responsive corporate policies play a big part in building Legato's highly valued culture of diversity and inclusion. Thank you. This is one of the key ingredients that bring out Legato's brand of customer experience with malasakit and with empathy and genuine care. Diversity and inclusion is in our code of behavior, and is now written, defined in our leadership model, which is part of our written performance criteria for leaders. Leaders are so important. They cast the shadow of leadership. And so as far as gender streaming is concerned, they should behave or model the behaviors that are required in order to build a culture of inclusion, equality, and diversity. In conclusion, I would like to cite studies that show environments promoting gender equality and women empowerment have enormous benefits. In fact, McKinsey Global Institute reports that 12 trillion would be added to our global GDP by 2025 by advancing women's equality. From my experiences, gender mainstreaming in government and corporate policy making is in the heart of the culture of diversity, equality, and inclusion. This is value adding because it nurtures growth, creativity, innovation, while inclusion, on the other hand, emanates from work environments where diversity and equality are welcomed and thrive. Back to you, Evelyn. Thank you very much.
Evelyn, you're on mute. Evelyn, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you, Noya. Our last, but certainly not the least speaker is Miss Florencia Tariela, or Flor to all of us. Flor just recently retired as chair of the oldest and biggest bank in the country, the Philippine National Bank, where she sat as chairman, the first and only woman independent director for 15 years. PNB had to retire her because the good governance rules now in force mandate that an independent director can only serve for a maximum of 9 years, and Flor served for 15 years. So she was really overstaying. Before this, Flor achieved another first, the first Filipino woman to serve as vice president of Citibank. She also worked with the Department of Finance as an undersecretary. Flor is now retired from the corporate world, but she has found another full-time job, which was just her hobby when she was still working. She is now a passionate gardener, developing her big farm in Antipolo into an edible garden. She is an expert in transforming weeds and plants into edibles and medicinals. Her advocacy is plant, 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 so no Filipino will go hungry. For those who subscribe to an organic diet or those who are vegans, Flor just published a book titled Weedibles to Medicinals. Proof that this diet works, Flor, who now lives in an empty nest because all her kids are married with her husband Edgar, claims that they live as Adam and Eve in the Garden of Paradise, where they pick leaves and weeds and flowers for lunch and dinner. So ladies and gentlemen, here is Flor. Flor, you're on
mute.
Flor.
Yeah. Okay.
You're still on mute.
Huh?
You're
Hello?
Yeah, now we hear you.
But can you see me? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Evelyn, for that beautiful introduction. You know, Evelyn is a very good friend. And good afternoon to everyone. I am woman. I am a strategist. This afternoon, I will share with you my experience with Philippine National Bank. Philippine National Bank, PNB, is the fourth largest private domestic bank in the Philippines, subscribes to the highest standards of corporate governance. In the 2019 ASEAN Corporate Governance Scorecard, PNB received 3 Golden Arrow Award and looking forward to 4 in 2020. It was discussed that policies are important. Yes, they are important because they serve as the performance and behavior blueprint for management and employees. But the ultimate test is how these policies are communicated and implemented into tangible actions across all levels of the organization. Recently, PNB prepared its sustainability policy, stating its positions on gender equality, diversity, and inclusion, which now included gender lens or gender smart lending for banks, something that's very new in the Philippines. It also included sexual harassment, whistleblowing, and employee code of conduct, to name a few. These policies are continuously updated, strengthened to ensure their relevance to new developments, and they are cascaded, communicated, and reinforced in all training and orientation programs and webinars. There are also frequent reminders on email bulletins so that they are embedded and institutionalized as part of the bank's culture. What is interesting is that even if gender smart lending is still relatively new, PNB's portfolio already show that more than 50% of credit card holders and small business loans are to women, and more than 50% of our depositors are women. On PNB's position on gender equality, actions speak louder than words, because as Evelyn said, a woman was the chairman of PNB for the past 15 years. And having a woman as an independent director demonstrated PNB's high-level corporate leadership for gender equality. When I stepped down as chairman, there were 4 of us board members, as female board members. So it became 3. But I'm happy to report that just last week, the PNB board approved a very capable woman independent director, bringing the number of female directors of PNB again to 4, or 27%. Double what Ms. Penny mentioned earlier of 11%. Actually, I think she's listening now. The new member of our board is Pilit Papa, former country head of Bank of America and former president of the Bank Administration of the Philippines. Incidentally, the Bankers Association of the Philippines, the lead organization of commercial and universal banks, while open to women directors, did not have a specific policy on this. When I became a BAP director as the PNB representative to the Bankers Association, I recommended, and fortunately, the BAP board, composed of mostly men, approved the gender equality statement policy in the board nomination guidelines. And in the subsequent elections, 2 very competent female members were elected to the BAP board. One of them, in fact, became a member of the executive committee. PNB is the first Philippine bank to be EDGE certified. EDGE is the global certification for gender equality in the workplace. PNB is also the only universal bank that committed to the UN Empowerment Principles, a roadmap to business and growth. That was when it was done in March. I don't know if there were additional today. PNB has about 9,000 workforce and 60% are women. And what's interesting is that 60% of PNB's management and executive officers are women. Thus, PNB was recognized as leader for women in 2020 by Asia Money. Now, beyond policy development, companies should put in place activities and initiatives that protect and uphold the rights of their employees, regardless of gender and identity. Yes, gender equality and inclusion in the workplace is a right of everyone. And according to LinkedIn's 2021 Philippines Top Companies, PNB was ranked as the best company for professionals to grow in their careers. So in conclusion, policies are indeed important, but equally important is to walk the talk. I am woman, I am a strategist. Thank you.
Thank you, Flor. How inspiring. So we now go to the question and answer part of our program. If any of the audience would like to ask a question, just kindly type these questions in the chat box. So let me begin asking the first question. Ida, while many Filipinos want to migrate to Australia, what motivated you to come home? And is there a perceived difference between the opportunities for women in Australia versus the opportunities here in the Philippines?
Yeah, very good question. First question on what motivated me to come home. I actually got married in Australia. He's Filipino, so he was the one who brought me back to the Philippines. And from National Australia Bank, that's how I got into. I actually chose Philippine National Bank because it's a government bank to kind of like help the Philippine National Bank at that time. So with the second point is, what about the opportunities, Philippines versus Australia? I find Australia, especially this day and age, better opportunities in terms of a little bit more structured. In fact, in the parliament, 30% are already women. They are already imposing with publicly listed corporations for a certain percentage to be women. And the corporations already have specific policies. And in fact, for argument's sake, even if the department has reached their nominal target, if you don't have enough women in that particular department, that's part of your KRA. You won't get your bonus. So there are already things like that in Australia. We're a little bit baby, in my opinion, when it comes to policy setting, strategy setting. We kind of like, we know the what, but the how, and this is fantastic that we're the Womenbiz, we're and UN, you know, we're joining hands together and we're actually doing this. So opportunities in the Philippines, we're baby. There's a room for growth because we have a lot of very talented, intelligent women, and with this group, I don't see why we would not succeed.
Okay, thank you, Ida. And now I go to Flor. Flor?
Yes.
We are curious, we are interested to find out how Lucio Tan discovered you and how he recruited you. And follow up to that, since we know PNB is a public company, but it's family controlled. How did you navigate as chairman of the board? Did you experience any pressure from family, or were you relatively free to do what you want? Were you forced to drink Tiger beer instead of San Miguel beer?
Thank you, Evelyn. First, when I retired from Citibank, I became Undersecretary of Finance, and I was actually nominated as a government nominee in PNB when PNB was 45% public-private owned. So I started as a government nominee. And in fact, when I became chairman, then Cesar Purisima told me I will only be chairman for 3 months because the government was going to sell its equity. But I guess, you know, the PNB wanted stability, and so, you know, they retained me. On drinking, I have to admit, I have not drunk any. Well, Evelyn knows me. I think that's why she's asking this. She knows that the hardest drink I drink is water. So no, there's been no pressure, and we practice corporate governance very strictly. Thank you.
Okay. And now we go to Nora. Nora, you are the only one of the only one who had a very long experience or recent experience in government. We often hear about God, but we really don't understand what it is and what it does. So is there, can you educate us a bit about this God?
Okay. Thank you. So God is gender.
Gender and development.
Yes, gender and
program.
development. Yeah. I know that there are experts here from Philippine Commission on Women, but let me just explain based on my understanding and how we were able to implement this in the agency where I was from, the Department of Trade and Industry. There is always a belief that there is a big budget for gender and development. So my answer to that is, my reaction to that is it is relative. The way the mainstreaming happens in government is based on legal basis. Because in government, you always have to have a legal basis. And so in budgeting, it's usually prepared based on PAPs, programs, activities, and projects. And gender mainstreaming by way of providing a budget for it as an enabling mechanism is to attribute 5% of the budget in your PAPs or PAPs, programs, activities, and projects. So, so that is how we are able to maximize the use of the budget by mainstreaming those PAPs in specific initiatives that will benefit gender. And when I say gender, it's not just women, it's women and men, to make it inclusive and widely beneficial to all genders. So that is how I would respond to it.
Okay, so now we understand.
So there is really a misnomer to say we have to tap on government's budget on GAD.
Yeah.
That the trick would be to participate in government's PAP so that there will be a collaboration between public and private sector to maximize the use of GAD to benefit the stakeholders that we want to be reached.
So the 5% budget is not really a budget, but rather you have to have projects that will...
The word is attribution.
Okay.
5% is an attribution of existing line items in budgeting in government, which are based on PAPs. That's my observation.
Okay. You know, in Penny's talk earlier, she kept mentioning about having a sponsor. Maybe I ask the three of you, in your career, did you consider anyone to be your sponsor? And if so, what contribution did this sponsor have in your career? Ida, you want to start?
Yes, certainly. Some mentors are really hands-on, and some are, a lack of a better word, is a not necessarily a hands-on sponsor, but someone who's kind of like you're looking up to. Okay, for the mentor, I would say, wow, there's a few of them. The EVP of Philippine National Bank at that time, which I'm forgetting the name at the moment.
Not Flor, huh?
Oh, no, the one who passed away with he became a DSP. I can't believe it. I had it in my mind.
Miranda. Feli
No,
Miranda.
no, but I know si Mr. Feli. No, the other with Banco Central. I'm gonna get back to you. I'll just remember it. That's a problem when we're aging. But certainly he has helped. He was the one who said, you know, Philippine National Bank, I was quite young when I became a vice president, senior vice president, and I think I'm not sure, Miss Flor, I think I still hold the title or the record, so to speak, on the youngest at that time, because I got recognized because I was like gung-ho. I want to help the Philippines through Philippine National Bank. I want to train people and do this stuff. So, and he kind of recognized me and made me a head of a certain department and head of a group, which is a higher position at the time. But I
But
just
you
missed the name.
forgot the
I get
name.
back to
So the influence must be very mild.
But in my case, Evelyn, because
Oo.
I was I actually grew up well after Bancom, where Evelyn and I were together. I joined Citibank, where I actually practically grew. And in Citibank, the CEOs, or what they call country corporate officer, are leave every 4
3
years,
years.
no, max of 5 years. And since they're all very good, I learned from each one of them, different traits. Like Jim Collins would be fun-loving but strict. There is, Nano Pamnani, very micro-detailed. And then you have Paeng Benaventura, the former Baco Central, who I consider really my mentor also, very macro, okay? And will leave you to do things, and you would think he does not know what you're talking about, and then just suddenly when you have a problem, he can give you a solution. So because of that, I think I got the best of all worlds, because different personalities, so you're able to adjust to each of them, and I tried to to get the best and learn from each of them. But really, one of the mentor that has helped me was Paeng Benaventura, the former central bank governor, because he got me as Undersecretary of Finance, and I was able to sit in the monetary board when he was the central bank governor.
Okay. So Ida finally remembered her mentor, Val Araneta, who
Oh, si
passed
Val.
away.
Oh, yeah,
Passed
Val.
away. And so even your mentor passed away also, Nora. What do you do to them? How about you, Nora? Do you
Okay,
have-
well, thank you for that question. So I would consider my mentor would usually be my direct manager or my direct leader, because I want to build trust. And at the very beginning, that is my ask. So, and I always enjoy the 360 feedback mechanism. But rather it's informal. So you build, I love building a network where there's trust, where people can give feedback positively. The other mentor I have would be my trusted advisor and confidant. That would be my spouse, because who else would give me the very frank feedback. And one last thing, I always make sure that I have an honest critique. In the book of Adam Grant, that would be the one he describes as a disagreeable giver. Somebody who would give you an honest feedback and still retain that relationship. So it has to have that trust mechanism. So my boss, my 360 network with whom I trust, my spouse, and that disagreeable giver, according to the critic, the constructive critic.
Okay. So since all of you are managers for a long time, managing both genders, do you find it more difficult to manage one gender versus another? And if so, does your management style change when you're dealing with men or women? Or have you ever encountered any difficulty in managing either male or female? Because if we want to promote gender equality, there are times when we have to be more custom oriented in dealing with a specific gender. But What was your experience in that area?
Hmm.
Do you see any?
Let me start.
Do you have,
Yeah,
to
let me
have a different style? Who wants
let
to
me
take
start.
the question?
Let me
Nora?
start.
Okay.
Yes. Well, when I was younger, I was having difficulty having to manage women. So I thought I'm more effective managing men. But the trick was for me to form a diverse team of men and women. That really worked. And I learned over time. So today I'm not really particular whether you're a man or a woman or a member of the LGBT community or you're challenged in your abilities. No, it's about the individual. It is about learning, building a relationship with that particular individual. And gender comes later. In my present environment right now, there are more women. In fact, policy or a direction I did in the next couple of months is to hire more men because there are more women. So we want to build that diversity and make sure that we are true to our policy of inclusion and diversity.
Okay, and you, Floor.
Frankly, I really don't make a distinction between men or women when I, do appraisals, etc. It's really more on the competence of the person that I'm talking to. So, frankly, I never really looked at it as male or female. Although, maybe intuitively, I may be a little bit more on the lookout because some women may cry. But, I came from Citibank and the women are tough, So, I think also during the time of Ida, the women in PNB were also tough. So, I really didn't find any problem. And they were very competent as well. So, I think it really depends on the individual. I don't know. I may not be the right person because I may be insensitive about.
Okay,
Yes.
so but
Yeah,
Monette wants us to wrap up now. But Ida, can you
Okay,
give your
just quickly on that one, I same looking more on the competent side, not so much as whether they're a man or a woman. I must say though that if they're like, nearing the retirement age, it's something that it's kind of like hard for me to tell them to do specific work. So I'm kind of more, handling it differently in terms of age rather than gender.
Okay, let me just read a comment from the chat box from Annette Estrella Baleda. She says GAD is a development approach that seeks to equalize the status and condition of and relations between women and men by influencing the processes and outputs of policymaking, planning, budgeting, implementation, and monitoring and evaluation so that they would deliberately address gender issues and concerns affecting the full development of women.
Miss
Okay.
Evelyn.
Yes,
Miss Annette.
Annette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to clarify on the GAD budget that Miss Maya mentioned a while ago, the GAD budget is not entirely just attributed because we have a law, the Magna Carta of Women, saying that at least 5% of agencies' budget should be spent on programs, activities, projects to address gender issues and concerns. So in that regard, government agencies are really mandated by law to allocate. I mean, first they would make a plan to address gender issues and concerns, both of their to address issues of their organizations and their clients, and then that plan should be at least worth 5%. So the minimum is just 5%. So the attribution part, ito kasi yung mga difficulty of some agencies who do not have direct programs, activities, projects that address gender issues because of their mandates. That's why meron tayong tinatawag na tool to make them attribute their big ticket programs or major programs so that they are able to influence that program to make it gender responsive. So doon yung attribution part. But they could also, of course, directly plan for projects, activities, and the budget of which should be at least 5%. So that's implementing the God budget policy per the Magna Carta of Women. I hope
Okay, so that's clear. That's clear. Yeah, that it's really mandated by the Magna Carta that 5% be used for their development.
I'd like to add, based on my observation, in government, PAPs are based on a legal basis, and then there's such a thing as attribution. In the private sector, while we have legal basis, it's usually it's usually a question is what is the right thing to do, and you build your policy on gender mainstreaming based on the why, and then you build the sort of legal basis or the directive and policy and guidelines to it. So that's the main difference in my experience.
Okay, so since we are running out of time and Monette is suggesting we wrap up, may we hear a short message from the three of you before we go to the summary? Flor, you want to start?
Yeah, okay. We all know, and it has been proven that gender equality means good business. So there are many companies now that are fully aware and embrace gender equality. So many women can now aspire for that seat at the table. I would just like to say that when we take our seat, we need to make sure we deserve the seat. And some tips are, let's always act in a professional way, always continue to upgrade our skills, continuous improvement. Let's build purposeful networks like this, Womenbiz, Filipino CEO Circle. Be in the lookout for opportunities for your advocacy, as mentioned by Ms. Penny, contribute and speak up. And last but not least, in this pandemic or even despite this pandemic, let us all have a grateful heart, especially to the one above, Jesus Christ, who is the source of everything and the answer to all our needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's good advice. Nora?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. We are in a best time in our personal history as we make her history or her story. It's so encouraging that we have a network, excuse me. And in the Philippines, we have the Philippine Commission on Women that makes sure that there's discipline and rigor in being able to ensure that that initiatives are really monitored and that the spirit at which it is mandated by law is there, which is why also in the private sector, it is very important for us as women, or any leader for that matter, to look ahead because the world is different. While my cases were in the past, I cited them in the past, I think the way forward is to be more forward-looking, to ensure that we have a sustainable change model. And with this, I'd like to just read up a favorite poem that my mom tells me all the time. I want to make sure it's read correctly. I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what, why, and when, and how, and where, and who. So these are very basic tenets in whatever we do in gender mainstreaming and policy making. This is very important. Thank you.
Okay, Ida.
Okay, I'm gonna keep mine short, and it's certainly about the competency, the ability. Of course, you gotta know the next step. I'm gonna go simple in terms of you want to get promoted. You have to ensure that where you're gonna get promoted to is you have the competence and you have the ability. So, and don't keep quiet and just as Penny mentioned, humingi ka ng malaking kumot. But how do you do that? I'm gonna give a little bit of a hint, which is when you've done something really good and good performance appraisal, you can ask your boss. Boss, didn't say sir, boss. What are your plans for me? So the boss will probably think, oh, plans na sinasabi mo. But at least that you planted a seed and the boss will think, oh nga naman, what about Ida? What about, I wonder what she wants and can ask, what would you like? I'd like to get this position. It's kind of like an opening and in a way getting the blanket into reality. Thank you, Ms. Evelyn.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. And now it's my turn to summarize what has been taken up. That was a very enlightening, very interactive sessions, and so many points are very helpful. So just to summarize, from Penny's figures, it shows that statistics abound to prove that women, who comprise half of the world's population, are really seriously underrepresented in the world of work. We have before us the untapped resource of more than half of the world's population, which, if capitalized, could add 9 to 23% to a country's wealth and reduce poverty seriously. In developed countries and even in the metropolis of developing countries, the percentage of male and female who get college education is almost equal. It also may not surprise us that female students get better grades than male students. This is a good foreboding of positive developments happening to women, but reality still sucks. Despite these statistics, the percentage of women CEOs is appallingly disproportionate to the population. And worse, the pay disparity between men and women has hardly moved for decades. Gender inequality is endemic in society. In every society, even the most advanced, women are assumed subordinate to men when it comes to education, jobs, compensation. And this all starts even when we are still in the womb, when we are stereotyped as men, as boys and girls. In most cases, society has defined women as weak, emotional, risk-averse, while men are tough, aggressive, decisive. Women are assumed to take care of the home, the children, the kitchen, aging parents. Men work to support the family and rest when they get home. But over generations, this role has slowly evolved, and the fact remains that men continue to be the dominant gender, and this is most pronounced in position of leadership and governance. Companies now, a lot of them do not consider gender equality or even diversity as priority goals. Some pay lip service to this, but in reality, these are not part of corporate culture. We have to admit, though, that the number of companies subscribing to the UN's gender sustainable development goals are increasing. And in all 17 goals, there are gender components. These companies are in the public eye, and compliance with international standards pays off in terms of improved public image and positive investment rating. Getting gender equality to the boardroom should be the advocacy of women leaders and decision makers who themselves have managed to take a seat at the table. Women should be the most zealous advocates of their own cause. Admittedly, boardrooms are still controlled by men by sheer numbers. And unless men buy into the merits of opening opportunities to women in higher positions of management, gender equality and diversity cannot progress to become corporate policies. If the goal is gender equality because policymakers recognize its benefits to the organization in the long term, women should initiate the change. The board should mandate it. Management should execute it. Finance should budget for it. PR should communicate it clearly. HR should train, monitor, and measure compliance, and the entire organization should embrace it. This policy should be reflected in the organization's hiring, appraisal, promotion, compensation, and termination policies. Corporate policies that are fair, gender responsive, and offer equal opportunities to women will attract more women to the job market. We as women must also empower ourselves if we desire to pursue position of leaderships. We must likewise come up with our own personal strategies and policies. There is no shortage of advice from successful women CEOs who have reached the top and who are encouraging other women to go for it. Women CEOs around the world, though they may speak in different tongues, they have a consistent and collective advice to aspirants for top positions in the corporate sector. So if companies have policies, women should also have policies for their own good. And from all that have been spoken by women CEOs, I can condense them to the 10 commandments for women who aspire for leadership positions. Number 1, in selecting a career, find out what particular activity you enjoy doing. If you know what you want early in life, you are indeed lucky. If you are not sure or don't really know yet, surely you know what you do not want to do. That is also great, as it eliminates a lot of your options. The theory behind this is you are more likely to succeed in what you are doing if you enjoy doing it. Second, your job will occupy a big chunk of your time, so it is critical that it means something purposeful to your own life, purposeful to you. Your job must be a vehicle for the attainment of your own life's purpose. Earning money is not the goal of work. It is the reward of a job well done. But fulfillment and self-satisfaction in what you do makes every day worth living, and this comes from doing what is right, what is good in service of others. Third, work in a company you believe in. Its mission, purpose, and core values should be aligned to yours. It is important that you respect and trust the people you work for in the same manner that the people you lead and must trust and respect you. When certain practices of your leaders cause you discomfort or bother your conscience or are outrightly unethical and you cannot right these wrongs, you and your company are no longer compatible and it is time to move on. This is important and you have been saying this all along. Speak up. You have a voice. Let it be heard. Your ideas remain in your head unless communicated. Sometimes we get timid in the company of men, but unless we are heard and listened to, we are not present in the room. We have to speak with conviction and stand our ground if we believe we are right or if we see things can be better. 5, build a strong team. and pick the right people for the job. Do not make the mistake of hiring people who look and talk like you. Building a competent team consisting of people of diverse backgrounds and experiences create a dynamic and stimulating work environment. Next, a confident team leader gives credit where credit is due. Some bosses want to claim credit for work well done without attribution to those who contributed to the work. This kills motivation and is the fastest way to lose good people. When the people below you push you up, you must remember to bring them up with you. Next, be a perpetual student. Remain curious. Never stop learning. In our world today, we have an overload of information. Anything is accessible with a click of a keyboard. Technology and the pandemic have disrupted the world of business and the ways of work. With this pace of change, we have to spend the rest of our lives unlearning old ways and reinventing ourselves to adapt to changes and new challenges this bring about. In any profession or business, you are advised to network. It is advantageous to join organizations whose mission and purpose you share. Networking helps you expand your sphere of influence, develop strong relationships and alliances, connects and interconnects you with people. Leadership in organizations builds your public image, boosts your stature in the community, and opens many doors. 9, be clear about your priorities. A woman has to accept that she has a family to take care of, a household to run, and a demanding job that requires her time and attention. Not only does she need to manage her time effectively and efficiently, she oftentimes must surrender her personal time to serve the needs of family, home, and office. But all the top women CEOs are unanimous and unequivocal in declaring that family is their top priority. And last but most important, if you have to marry, find a man or a partner who will be supportive, secure, and independent. The worst thing that can happen to an aspiring, ambitious woman is to marry a man who is controlling, insecure, and entitled. The formula for a happy life and a successful career is to marry the right person. But what do you do if you marry the wrong man? I don't know the answer, but I asked Attorney Lorna what I should do if I marry the wrong man, and she said quickly, poison his coffee and hire me as your lawyer. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for spending your afternoon with us. Stay safe, keep well.
Okay.
Oh my, thank you so much. My goodness, those 10 commandments are something that we all have to follow. Buti na lang you said about Lorna, because I was gonna say that's the answer. Get her into the fray. May we call on our case authors to please join us here on the virtual stage with Mylene as well and Len so that we can have a souvenir photo with everyone together. Wax, I hope you can work on this, please. To get so thank you so much for all of those wonderful sharings. I really loved those 10 commandments and that last part, the number 10, that's really difficult to find. I was lucky I had one, pero pag nawala, paano na yan? Okay.
But Evelyn did say about being the right partner too, huh, Evelyn?
Siyempre. In public, admit.
Okay, so are we ready for the photo? Okay.
All right.
Are you taking it? Okay. So thank you so much, everyone, for being with us this afternoon. Let me just go through the closing remarks. Wax, if you could kindly put up the slides, please. So this event today, next slide, next one, please, is really the fifth in an installment of six, no? We have had so far 6 of these events that you can see actually on your screen. So we still have one more that's coming up, and that's coming up next week with the very strong woman, Attorney Lorna Pataho Kapunan, as the case lead for this event. And this is going to be talking about the I Am Safe, Safe Space Act, and also anti-harassment. So make sure that you finish the entire 6 series webinars, because all of that information that has been put together by all of the chapter leads, as well as the case authors, as well as the resource persons, will then be put together into an ebook. Next slide, please. That ebook is called I Am Woman, and this is a gender responsive guide for business and corporate leaders. So that is coming up on September 16. So you have a QR code there. You can take a photo of it so that you could reserve a copy already. And later, when you flash the evaluation form, please make sure that you go to it and complete it, because then you can also indicate how many copies that you want for this. Also, we have some more announcements to make. Next slide, please. You are invited to the, or sorry, rather than invited, there will be the next session on promoting sustainable and inclusive MSMEs through gender responsive mentoring. And this is part of the KMME program of the Department of Trade and Industry. And this is being done together with Womenbiz, with PCW, with UN Women We Empower Asia. So essentially what we're doing with this particular program is to teach the mentors that there is a difference between men and women, and how can we include or put in the gender responsive lens in the mentoring phase. Next slide, please. Okay, another announcement, Womenbiz is partnering with Team Asia for this Mama Convention that is happening on September 11 and 18. We have a great list of speakers. If you could kindly go to the next slide, please. Yes, so these are the topics that will be taken up on September 11 and 18. So we're starting off with what is a woman's worth. We've discussed a lot of that in the past few sessions of the webinars, but we do have several really hard-hitting topics that aren't really talked about, but we will be discussing in very hard conversations over the 2 days, no? Such as, are you turning into your mom? Or I saw your child online last night, the rainbow family, so the entire spectrum of the LGBTQ, and what if the mom and the dad are both dads or both moms, raising a special child during extraordinary times, and so on. We have several inspirational women who will be giving momspiration talks, starting with Mirella Sula, who is the Global Woman Club head, as well as Rebecca Bustamante. And just still off the press, our speaker, Ms. Rosario Cahucom Bradbury, has agreed to actually start day 2 with her talk on pioneering inclusivity. We have a special rate. Can you show the next slide, please? And because we have partnered with Womenbiz, and this is available to all of the participants, you can sign up at only 750 pesos. So this is a 25% discount over the regular rate of 1,000 for this 2-day seminar. Next page, please. We also would like to invite you. We will be having the We Rise event, and that is happening on August 25 and 26. This is where Vilgro has partnered with Womenbiz to talk about access to finance, gender financing gap, and how to accelerate business. So it's a great opportunity for participants today and Womenbiz to network at that event. Next slide, please. Oh, yes, we have another partner, which is the IWE, or the Indian Women in Enterprise. They are launching the very first Indian cookbook in Filipino. So they have partnered with Womenbiz in translating this into Filipino and English. So that's going to be launched this Saturday. So if you want to get a copy, and I suggest you do it, those are really mouth-watering recipes that IWE is presenting, and it's going to be an ebook. Next slide, please. We do have this evaluation form. So kindly, please go to that link that is being presented. And Wax, I hope you put it on the chat link as well so people can go directly to the evaluation. Please fill this up. We need your feedback. We want to know, we want to hear from you what you think about all of this Womenar series that we've had. And also this will help us in terms of putting together more events for you. And with that, I would like to thank you so much for joining us in this 5th session of the Womenar series. Today's session is I Am Woman, I Am a Strategist, and let's make sure we put it into our corporate policy so that we make gender mainstreaming a reality in our organization. So this is Monette Hamlin, thanking you very much. Please stay safe. Maraming salamat.
Okay.
Please put the link, yes.